This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 146. Due to a jam-packed last couple of weeks, I only saw 5 movies this week. First one, I'm going to tell you this though. I liked it. I kind of enjoyed it. I laughed a few times. It's a comedy, but it's kind of dark. It's a little cringy. A lot of the scenes, in my opinion, they could have literally just made you think about it. They didn't actually have to show you the scenes in the movie, because we could definitely get the idea. It was I Love My Dad, which is basically off a true story where the character is a horrible father, and the only way to connect with his son is he makes a fake account. Instead of making a fake account of a dude and being his friend, he makes it a girl, and they talk, and they sext, and all this other stuff, and the kid falls in love with her. This is the kid who supposedly has battled suicidal thoughts, depression, he was in a group, whatever, home for a bit, whatever the case is. And Rachel Dratch, who I'm not the biggest fan of, is Patton Oswalt's girlfriend or boss. It's kind of weird. And the ex-wife, Amy Landecker, hates him. Little Ron Howard's the coworker who gives him the idea and goes, I didn't tell you to do that. You just did it on your own. And this James Maroney who plays the kid, he did a very good job. And you were just can they just, can they not include everything? No, they have to show instead of him kissing the girl because he had a vivid imagination, him kissing Patton Oswalt. And I'm just yeah, it was not the best movie I watched. It was really a little cringeworthy. Then I watched the movie After Yang, and it was so boring, and I was tired. I fell asleep after my doctor's appointment. I was Colin Farrell, he's married to this black woman, and you think they got 2 Asian kids. Okay, so they adopted it. Nope, they adopted a boy because they work so many hours that they can't be with their daughter, that there's this company, in the dystopian future, or whatever it is, who makes androids who could be siblings and be an Asian buddy to him, to her and stuff. And I was okay. And the whole movie is him trying to fix him and figuring out that he got it from a discount place, and that place is gone. Nothing they could do. Doesn't want to, sell him for scrap. His neighbor gives him some shady mechanic who then gives him a scientist. And it's all this, I don't know. Him, learning about him and how this android was with another family, had a lover, another android lover or a regular lover, and it was flashbacks by looking at his memory bank. It was very confusing, very boring, and very drama-y, so I'm glad a lot of you put a drama because it's nowhere near that exciting. Then I watched a movie where they put science fiction because it has to do with a genie, 3,000 Years of Longing with Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton. Both have been in Marvel, DC, etc., etc. Good time movie. They've been very good. And it's also an hour and 40-ish minutes, so it's not that long. The other 2 movies were also in the 90-minute range. It's not too long. But literally, she's a recluse who's a famous scientist or whatever, and she's at a conference, and she rubs some artifact, and the genie comes out, and he basically tells her that I've been in prison multiple times, and then gives him all the whole story of how he got in prison, all of his past lovers, and all the attempts to be freed of this curse that he had. And she's she doesn't really like other people, and she likes to stay in, and then they fall in love with each other, and then they're together and stuff. And I'm okay, that's not really science fiction-y. That's fantasy or erotic fiction where you fall in love with the genie and stuff. And I'm sorry, it was okay. It wasn't the worst movie or a bad movie I've seen in recent weeks. This was it's okay. Weird plot. Just the 2 main actors are the point to watch this movie if you're fans of them. Then I watched a movie this week that was the best movie I watched this week, called The Phantom of the Open. That's certified rotten fresh. It's in the hour and 40-minute range, and based on a true story in a way, where this guy just enters the British Open, said he's a professional, but he never was on golf courses before, so he's practicing in the forest, in the backyard, in his house, on the beach, all different elements, and doesn't have all the right clubs. His twin sons, who are dancers, are his caddies and stuff, and because it was an embarrassment, because it's a true story, the British Open's you cannot come back, you cannot compete on any other of the tournaments because you can't be in a golf club because you're a professional. It's unfair. But he's but how do I practice? So he's famous for pretending to be someone else from other country, and then that going wrong, and then a whole, crusade for him, and they had a day here in the United States, and they all were a huge fan of him, and that's literally what he did. He continued to play golf till he passed away. He had a son earlier, and that son didn't want anything to do with him. But overall, I laughed a lot. It was really good. Sally Hawkins was in the movie. She was really good. So I was yeah, I like this movie. I really, really enjoyed it. Then the movie I watched today, which is what I do on Saturday. I watch long movies. I watched Red Rocket. And it said, made from the dude of Florida Project, which I thought was an okay movie, and Tangerine was eh. This movie was literally 2 hours and 6 minutes. And I'm saying to myself, again, why do movies have to be 2 hours long, especially if it's a boring drama? Scobie Public Library, this is not a comedy. This thing was boring and dry. It was about some porn star who he and his wife made it big, and she screwed him over, and then his life went downhill, and he's got to come back to Texas where, you know, he's probably not the most liked person, and move in with his wife, his ex-wife or wife, whatever the legal terms of it, the mother-in-law's house, and, like, they're like, you guys do the rent. You got to pay the rent. You got to do the chore. So he's like, okay, I'll do that. Then he started working for this black woman who, you know, he worked for her before, but she doesn't remember, and he's selling weed because it's not legal, supposedly, in Texas. And they're like, you can't sell here, but you can sell here. Then he was like, befriends a dude just to get him to drive him around. There's all these things for people, like, he's kind of conning them and stuff. And then he meets a 17-year-old girl, like, I turned 18 in 3 weeks, and they sleep with each other, like, a bunch of times, but it takes at least an hour and a half into the movie. They kiss, she does all this stuff to him, and it's like, okay. But she's, real life, she's in her late 20s playing a 17-year-old, so it's what it is. But the point is, like, you're like, he's using her, because if he's like, I can make you a famous porn star and make money off her and move to LA, that helps him out. But literally, you're like, can the movie just, like, end where he's like, his luck actually happens, or he can leave and go to Los Angeles and everything's fine? Nope. His ex-wife, who he says screwed him over multiple times in his life, screwed him over again with the mother-in-law, with the drug dealer, and he's literally, like, running the town naked because these goons are after him. They take his money and the drug, and he doesn't have the money to pick up the girl and take her to the train station, all this other stuff. I'm like, I sat through 2 hours plus for the movie just to end horribly. Like, yeah, that's a waste of my time. I don't know how Certified Rotten Tomatoes funny. I don't know how the library thinks it's a comedy. It was horrible. So this movie, Red Rocket, After Yang, and 3,000 Years of Longing. Like, I would say this. I could sit through 3,000 Years of Longing and even After Yang because they're short, but they're just not good movies. I love My Dad was cringy, and even though it was based on a true story, there's some stuff that just should have cut out. The best movie was, I would recommend, Phantom of the Open. It's based off an unbelievable true story, and it was not too long, and it was good acting. Thank you again for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 146. For On the Radar Tay Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.